guys, welcome to my art channel. Thanks for stopping by to make some art with me. For more free art lessons, you could press the button below and subscribe right there on that red button. And I will see you really soon. Now let's get to making some art. Bye-bye. Welcome to Mixed Media Art with Miss Carrie. Today we are going to be doing a collage dog with different types of papers. So let's get started. You will need a scissor and a glue stick and a pencil. You're going to need your assorted collage papers, whatever you have. If you don't have collage papers, you can use newspapers, you can use pages from magazines, you can use junk mail to do this, okay? A piece of tracing paper will be really helpful. You're going to need a piece of mixed media or cardstock paper to put your collage on, and an extra piece of printer paper, okay? So the first thing that we're going to do, because there's multiple steps to this, is we're going to draw the dog. Now you're welcome to draw any dog you like, but I am going to show you step by step how to draw this cute little beagle over here, okay? Let me just get some space. And we will draw the beagle. So, to start the beagle's face, we're going to do an oval shape that's not closed, if that makes any sense. I'm going to show you. Like that. Inside that shape, we are going to draw, it's kind of a teardrop, like this. Almost looks like a melting baseball. Okay. Next, we're going to draw the shape of the nose inside that very strange shape. So you're going to draw a shape like that. So 3 shapes so far. Okay. If at any time I'm going too fast for you, just pause the video, okay? Now I'm going to add the ears, and the ears are a curved line that goes around the head like that. There's one ear. And then I'm going to do the same thing, but his ears, the beagle's ears hang low, so don't put them at the top of the head. Put them about starting in the middle of the head, like that. Okay, we're going to make the body, which is just like, kind of like the bottom part of an egg. And I'm making him very simply shaped because we're going to be cutting these shapes out in the patterned paper or our collage paper. So we don't need too many details, and you don't need to color this in, okay? I'm going to add his paw, like that. And I'm going to add his other front paw. Like that. And just a back paw like he's kind of sitting back there. Okay. And I'm just going to add his eyes. His big sad eyes. Like that. So that's the basic shape of this little guy, this little beagle guy. Now, what I'm going to recommend is that you take your tracing paper and trace over your design, because we're going to be cutting this out into pieces, so it's good to have one to look at so we know where to place all our cutouts, like for this. So I'm just going to really quickly take my tracing paper and trace over my design. Alright, so I have my tracing and I have my drawing. So either one could be the one that you cut out and the other one can be your guide. So the next thing we're going to do is start cutting out our little dog. Okay, I'm going to cut him out from the printer paper. I just think it's a little sturdier than the tracing paper. So first I'm just going to cut around him. Okay, so I have my little guy cut out like that. And now I'm going to cut out each piece. So I'm going to start by cutting out the larger pieces before I do the smaller pieces. So for instance, I'm going to cut out, I'll cut out his ear first. And I'm going to be very careful to cut on these lines that I drew so he matches the picture. So there's his ear. Okay, and you can put it on top of your picture, your tracing for now, just so things don't get lost. This project involves a lot of cutting, so it could be good practice for you in cutting. Here's his other ear. Now, I just cut his head. I also have to cut this part of the nose, this part of the nose, and the two eyes. So there's a lot of cutting going on here. So I'm going to start by cutting this out. And then this side out. Now I'm going to need these shapes, so I have to be very careful when I cut out the eye, because the shapes that we're cutting are going to become our patterns. Okay, so I have all his pieces. Now he's like a puzzle, right? So what you're going to do is you're going to decide on the colors that you want to cut for your dog, the different colors. So his ears might be one color, his body another color. I have his nose 2 different colors, his eyes 2 different colors. So we're going to start with, let's start with the body. It's the biggest piece. So I'm going to use this crazy yellow. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the pattern on top of the paper, and I'm going to show you a little trick that might help. If you take just a teeny bit of glue stick and put it on the back of your pattern, just a teeny bit, because you want to be able to pull this pattern off. It'll make it easier to cut the pattern. So now I'm going to take this pattern, I'm going to cut around it. And hold on to your scraps, because you might be able to use them for other parts of this project. So I just used a teeny bit of glue, so I'm able to pull it right off. And here's my pattern, and there's my cutout piece. And I can put it right on my dog here, and I move this aside. His body is done. So I'm going to start with the ears. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to put a teeny bit, just a tiny bit, you can't even see it, of the glue stick, just so my pattern doesn't move. And then I'm going to cut around it. And you want to cut around your pattern really carefully. So all your pieces, all your colorful collage paper pieces, after they're cut, they'll fit into the dog picture perfectly. Okay, and I have one of my ears. I'm cutting out his second ear. There we go. Okay. So let's see. I'm gonna put these papers aside. I'm gonna save my scraps because you don't know what you're gonna use them for. You never know. And I'm gonna find some. And I think I'm gonna do his paws in all the same color. So I'm gonna do this on this crazy blue and tan sheet. And I'm just gonna put a little tiny bit of glue. I'm gluing my patterns down, and when I glue my patterns down, I'm gluing them close together so I don't waste too much paper. And to make it easy, I could do a big cut around. The whole pattern, the three of them, and then I'm going to go in and cut the pieces closer. So it really helps just to put a little dab of glue on there. Okay, so this is what I have so far. I have his body, his ears, and his legs. And you see how colorful that is, right? So now I'm going to work on his face. And I'm going to look at what I have and think about how I want to do the face. Another thing I didn't do yet that I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out the inside of his eyes. His eyes look like that, and they're actually two pieces. I don't know if you could see that. They're actually two pieces in there. So I have to cut out the pupil part. So the eyes are a little bit tricky because they're so small, and I'm going to actually do a lighter color for the eyeballs and then a darker color for the inside of his eyes. And I'm going to make sure I get a little bit of glue on there. I have to, oh, these are the outsides. They're like little moons. Hopefully I didn't put too much glue on there. Okay, so I have the outsides of his eyes. I'm going to cut those. So I have the outside of the dog's eyes. I'm going to just pop them on my paper so I don't lose those little pieces. Oops. I only have one. I'm going to do the other. They're a little tricky because they're so small. Okay, I don't know if you can see this, but I didn't cut the curve on the top just to make it easier and the piece a little bit bigger, because I'm going to put the eye, the dark part of the eye, right on top of this. So instead of cutting that all the way in and having such a tiny piece, I left it straight across. And now I'm just going to decide the colors that I want to use for the inside of his eyes. Whew, that was the hardest part. Okay, so now I have his cheeks and what the color around his eyes. So maybe we can do some pink. Now these pattern pieces have the eye cut out. You don't have to cut that out on your paper because the eye is going to go right on top of that space, so you won't see those holes. And it makes it a little bit easier. So I just cut it out as a solid piece. And I cut the second side out as a solid piece. And I'm also going to cut this nose area out as a solid piece. I'm not because this is his actual nose will go on top of it, so I don't have to cut the hole in here like this. Okay, so here is the nose area, or the front of his nose there. And then I need his actual nose. That was his snout. I couldn't remember. It's his snout. This is his actual nose. So I have all the pieces of my little dog here. And I'm actually going to take him and I'm going to put him aside, and we're going to work on our background before we put our dog on. So you will need your either mixed media or cardstock paper, whichever you have. It's a little bit thicker than printer paper because it has to hold all that glue and all that paper. And just take some time to decide how you want your background to look. So what I did here was I made grass first, and I did that just by cutting out some pieces, kind of making a wiggly line. And I think I had to do it twice because my collage paper is a little bit small, so I'm going to cut out just 2 pieces at the same time. To go across the bottom and kind of look like the ground. Like that. And then I'm going to glue it on with my glue stick. Oops. So I prefer to put the glue on my background paper. It's easier than to put it on. It's easier to maneuver the pieces on top of that. I'm just going to make sure that my edges are glued, and I'm going to trim off any extra. And that's just the ground where the dog is going to stand on. Now, you could make this higher. You can make it different colors, different layers. I'll show you how to do a double layer. So I did 1 layer there. I'm going to do another layer of ground. I'm going to do it the same way that I did it. I folded the paper in half so I can cut 2 pieces at once. Just makes life a little bit easier. It makes the cutting go a little bit quicker if you cut 2 at the same time. Okay. So I'm going to add this layer right underneath, because I didn't quite glue the edges down all the way. And I need to make sure I glue those edges. And I'm going to cut that end off. And here I have the ground is 2 layers. Okay, so now you can make the sky. You can make it however you want. I'm just showing you a very basic idea, but you can just get really creative with it. And again, you could always pause the video and come back to the parts that you need more time with. I'm going to show you how to make some clouds. They're very simple. And I bet you know how to make clouds. The easiest way to do it, I find, is because I want more than 1 cloud. Here I have 4 clouds. So I'm going to fold my paper in half, and I'm actually going to grab another piece of paper. Any papers that I want, anything that I want to be a cloud, I'm going to put in 1 stack, and I'm going to cut it out in that puffy, kind of ovally shape with all those wavy lines in it. And in this way I've made 3 clouds with 1 cut. So I'm just going to pop those onto my background. Now I'm not going to put too much in the middle of my paper here because that's where the dog is going to go. And if you see some purple from the glue, that's fine. That will dry clear, so I'm not even worried about that. So I pop some clouds in the background. And if you'd like to add a sun, the way I did the sun was I cut out a circle for my brightest paper. But your sun can be absolutely any color. And then what I did was I took another contrasting color, so it's going to look interesting. Maybe this will look interesting with my sun as the rays. And I'm going to fold it in half. I'm going to cut at the fold, right up at the fold, so I have 2 sheets of paper. They're 2 separate sheets of paper. Then I'm going to put them together, and I'm going to cut some really thin rectangles to make my sun's rays. And they could be different lengths and different thicknesses. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put them down on the paper first. The rays first, and then I'll add my sun on top of it. So I'm actually just drawing rays with my glue. I don't know if you could see that. And then I'm going to pop my paper on top of that. Okay, and I can add more sun rays if I like, or I can leave it like that. I think for now I'm going to leave it like that. Maybe I'll add some more later. I think I'm ready to put my beagle on the paper. So let me move this out of the way. The way I'm going to do this is I'm going to put his body down first to help direct me, and because that's the middle of everything is his body. So I'm taking the largest piece and I'm putting it down kind of, you know, in the middle, in the center line, but towards the bottom, because I want his feet to be on the ground. And it's okay if I'm going right over the clouds, because those are in the background. I just want to double check. Yep. So I have the body just floating right above the ground here. And then I'm going to add his feet. And I could look at the tracing that I did. That's what I have here. To see where all the pieces go. Make sure I put everything in the right place. I think here it's easier to glue the back of the paper. I just want to make sure I have the edges. I tend to forget the edges when I glue, and then they pop up. So I have his body and his foot right on there, on the ground. So now I'm going to put his other foot on, and it should match up like a puzzle. So I have the bottom half of his body, and he's all on the ground, and he's in front of the clouds. And I'm just going to keep building him. And you start with the largest parts, and then you go to the smallest parts. So things like his eyes and his nose, those go on last. And I'm just fitting all the pieces in like a puzzle. And I keep referring back to my tracing as a guide. Okay, we're getting there. He's looking pretty cute. So I'm just going to add his nose now, and then I'll get to his eyes. So the last thing I have to do is add the dark colors inside of his eyes, and he's almost done. And he's looking pretty dapper. And there he is, my collage beagle, enjoying the day outside in the sunshine. I hope you enjoyed yourself, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye.